What if everything you've been taught about being a good person is actually making you weak, resentful, and unable to live the life you truly desire? Nietzsche argued that the very morality we've been conditioned to accept since childhood is a psychological poison designed to keep the powerful weak and the ambitious submissive. In his explosive work, The Antichrist, he doesn't just critique religion, he dismantles the entire moral framework that Western civilization is built upon. And here's the uncomfortable truth: you might be living under its chains right now without even realizing it. Let's talk about what's really happening in your life right now. You feel guilty when you pursue your own ambitions too aggressively. You've been taught that self-sacrifice is noble, that putting others first is always the right thing to do, that humility is a virtue while pride is a sin. But here's what no one tells you. This moral programming is precisely why you feel stuck, why you can't assert yourself in relationships, why you apologize for taking up space, and why you feel ashamed of your own desires for power, success, and recognition. You're in a toxic relationship, but you stay because leaving would be selfish. You're underpaid at work, but you don't negotiate because demanding what you're worth feels arrogant. You have dreams that excite you, but you suppress them because they seem too ambitious or not humble enough. You've been conditioned into what Nietzsche called slave morality, a value system that celebrates weakness, demonizes strength, and keeps you perpetually diminished. And the most insidious part? You police yourself. You've internalized the chain so deeply that you don't need external oppression anymore. You do it to yourself every single day, calling it being a good person. The pain you feel isn't weakness. It's your life force screaming against the constraints of a morality that was never designed for your flourishing. It was designed for your compliance. To understand what Nietzsche means by slave morality, we need to go back to his fundamental insight about the origin of our values. Nietzsche observed that there are essentially two types of morality that have competed throughout human history: master morality and slave morality. Master morality is the value system of the strong, the self-determining, the life-affirming. In this framework, good means powerful, beautiful, proud, joyful, anything that enhances life and demonstrates strength. Bad simply means weak, ugly, or pitiful. There's no moral condemnation here, just an assessment of vitality. But then something happened, what Nietzsche called a slave revolt in morality. The weak, unable to compete with the strong on their terms, performed a psychological inversion. They created a new moral framework where their weakness became virtue and the strength of their masters became vice. Suddenly, meekness became a virtue, humility became noble, and suffering became spiritually purifying. Pride, ambition, and self-assertion became sins. This is slave morality, a brilliant psychological revenge tactic that weaponizes guilt and shame. In The Antichrist, Nietzsche specifically targets Christianity as the ultimate expression of slave morality, but his critique extends far beyond religion into the secular moral frameworks we still inhabit today. The Christian virtues, meekness, self-denial, pity, humility, are, in Nietzsche's view, symptoms of declining life, of physiological exhaustion, dressed up as moral superiority. These values don't celebrate life. They're born from resentment toward life, from those who couldn't dominate life and so had to demonize it. Here's where it gets psychologically profound. Slave morality operates through what Nietzsche called ressentiment, a deep, festering resentment that the weak feel toward the strong, but which they cannot express directly. So instead, they create a moral system that makes the strong feel guilty for their strength. They convince the powerful that their power is actually shameful, that their desires are sinful, that their vitality is morally suspect. And over centuries, this moral framework became so dominant that even the naturally strong began to internalize it, to feel ashamed of their own life force. This is why you feel guilty about your ambitions. This is why success can feel morally uncomfortable. This is why you've been taught that self-sacrifice is always noble and self-interest is always suspect. You're operating within a moral framework that was designed to diminish you, and you've mistaken these chains for virtue. Nietzsche isn't advocating for cruelty or sociopathy. This is a common misreading. He's advocating for life affirmation, for embracing your power, for creating your own values, rather than accepting pre-packaged moral systems that serve someone else's agenda. He's calling you to become what he called the Übermensch, not a superhuman in the comic book sense, but a self-overcoming individual who creates meaning rather than discovering it, who says yes to life in all its difficulty, who transforms suffering into strength rather than using suffering as a claim to moral superiority. So how do you actually reject slave morality and reclaim your power? This isn't about becoming narcissistic or cruel. It's about fundamentally reorienting your value system away from guilt and toward growth, away from resentment and toward creation. First, you need to conduct what Nietzsche would call a revaluation of all values. Start examining every moral belief you hold and ask yourself, does this value enhance my life or diminish it? Does it make me stronger or weaker? Does it emerge from vitality or from resentment? When you feel guilty about pursuing your goals, pause and ask, whose voice is this? Is this my authentic assessment, or is this internalized slave morality policing my natural life force? You'll be shocked how many of your moral intuitions are actually just internalized programming designed to keep you small. The goal isn't to become amoral, it's to become the creator of your own morality, one that serves life rather than diminishing it. Second, practice what Nietzsche called amor fati, love of fate. This means embracing everything about your life, including the difficult parts, not as obstacles to overcome, but as essential elements of your becoming. When you face adversity, slave morality teaches you to resent it, to see yourself as a victim, to cultivate grievance. Master morality asks, how does this make me stronger? What can I create from this? This isn't toxic positivity, it's a fundamental shift from reactive resentment to active transformation. Your struggles aren't proof of your moral virtue, they're raw material for your self-overcoming. Finally, start making decisions based on expansion rather than guilt. When facing a choice, don't ask, what's the selfless thing to do? Or, what will make me look humble? Ask instead, what choice represents the fullest expression of my power and potential? This might mean leaving relationships where you're diminished, demanding compensation that reflects your value, pursuing ambitious goals without apologizing for them, or setting boundaries that others call selfish. The people who benefit from your self-diminishment will always frame your self-assertion as moral failure. That's how slave morality maintains its grip. Your job is to recognize this guilt-tripping for what it is and move forward anyway. The path forward isn't about becoming cruel or indifferent to others. It's about refusing to make weakness your identity and refusing to resent those who are strong. It's about saying yes to your own life with such intensity that you create value rather than merely accepting it. You are not here to be meek, to apologize for existing, or to make yourself small so others feel comfortable. You're here to become, to create, to overcome. That's not selfish. That's the most profound responsibility you have. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, comment, or subscribe. Let's grow together.